Her little voice changed everything. Based on 2 Kings, chapter 5, verses 1 through 14. History remembers generals, kings, warriors, prophets. But heaven remembers a child nobody even named. She was small, taken from her homeland, forced to serve the household of a mighty general. And yet, God placed a miracle on her lips. Welcome back, Agents of Wisdom. Today we begin a new journey, uncovering the children of the Bible whose faith was greater than fear and whose obedience shifted destinies. This series is not about future heroes. It's about children God used right then, right where they were. Our first story belongs to a little girl whose name was never recorded, whose voice was small, yet whose words unlocked a miracle. She was not a prophet. She was not a queen. She was a servant, and God used her to heal a general. The story you're about to enter proves one timeless truth. Heaven doesn't measure impact by age. It responds to faith. Captured from Israel, she became a servant of Naaman's wife. Naaman's household was a place of whispered footsteps and careful silence, a home of luxury, shadowed by a secret no one dared speak aloud. The commander of armies, the man nations feared, was fighting an enemy he could not conquer. His strength was legendary, but his sickness was winning. No soldier could defend him. No physician could cure him. Hope had become a stranger in his home. And yet, in that very house, God had already positioned the answer. Life in Naaman's household moved carefully. Conversations quiet, emotions held tight behind polite faces. Everyone knew what they refused to say aloud. Naaman's body bore the unmistakable marks of leprosy, a disease that no power, no rank, no physician could erase. But one servant carried something that did not match the atmosphere. Not fear, not duty, but certainty. It wasn't in her posture. It wasn't in her expression. It was in what she chose to say. To Naaman's wife she spoke, plainly, almost gently. She said, "If my master would go to the prophet in Samaria, he would find the healing no one here can offer." There was no tremor in her voice, no dramatic pause, only truth, quiet but unshakable. And the moment those words reached the ears they were meant for, something shifted in the house. Not the illness, but the direction of hope. The servant girl's words did not echo through the household. They slipped quietly from room to room, passed from one cautious voice to another, until they reached the man they were meant for. Naaman listened, not as a desperate man, but as a commander used to solutions arriving on his own terms. Leprosy had stolen many things from him, but surrender was not yet one of them. Still, a flicker of possibility is a powerful thing, enough to set entire kingdoms in motion. Naaman went to his king, and with all the ceremony of diplomacy, letters were written, sealed, and sent to the king of Israel. But the king of Israel misunderstood the intent. Fear gripped him. "Am I God to give death or life?" he cried. He saw the letter as a trap, not a plea for healing. Word reached the prophet Elisha, a man unbothered by politics or panic. He sent a message as calm as still water. "Send him to me, and he will know there is a prophet in Israel." And with that, Naaman's course shifted once again. His chariot rolled toward the prophet's dwelling, soldiers behind him, honor in front of him, pride beside him. But Elisha did not come to the door, not even close. Instead, a messenger stepped out, delivering instructions that struck Naaman harder than the disease eating at his skin. "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, No ceremony. No display of power. No acknowledgement of status. The commander's face tightened. He was furious. This was not the healing he imagined, not the respect he expected. Are not the rivers of Damascus better than all the waters of Israel? He protested. His anger flared, not at the river, not at the prophet, but at the truth he did not wish to face. Healing required humility, obedience, something far more costly than gold or rank. He turned away in fury, ready to abandon the journey entirely. But his servants stepped forward, their voices steady, their loyalty unwavering. If the prophet had asked you to do something great, would you not have done it? How much more then, when he says only, wash and be clean? Reason, soft as a whisper, finally broke through the storm of pride. Somewhere between Naaman's anger and the Jordan River, a truth emerges, one as old as faith itself. We imagine God in the grand gestures, in the dramatic, the impossible, the miraculous. But more often than not, heaven hides its greatest breakthroughs inside the simplest instructions. Wash, go, forgive, trust, try again. Rarely spectacular, always significant. Naaman wanted a miracle that matched his status, but God offered a miracle that required his surrender. And that is where many of us stand today, at the edge of something we've asked God for, staring at a step that feels too small, too humble, too ordinary to possibly change anything. But what if heaven has been waiting not on your strength, but on your obedience? What if the breakthrough you've prayed for sits just beyond the instruction you've ignored? Naaman's healing did not begin in the water. It began the moment he stopped demanding a miracle and started trusting the one who could give it. And so, agents of wisdom, look closely at the small things God has whispered to you. The step you consider insignificant may be the key that unlocks the very thing you've been asking heaven to do. Sometimes, the simplest obedience becomes the loudest yes in heaven. And often, it is in the quiet places where no one is watching that God waits to meet you next. Agents of wisdom, are you still with me? Tap like, share this with someone who needs it, subscribe, and comment. What step of obedience is God whispering to you in the quiet places? Now let's continue. Naaman stood at the edge of the Jordan, a river far smaller than the reputation he carried. The water was ordinary, muddy, unimpressive. Nothing about it suggested healing. But obedience rarely announces itself with grandeur. He stepped in, a commander entering water that did not respect rank. One dip, 2, 3. Each descent peeling away a layer of pride. Each rise confronting the man he was with, the man he needed to become. By the 7th time, the river was no longer just water. It had become the thin place where heaven's instruction met human surrender. Naaman emerged, and the skin once marked by leprosy shone like the skin of a child. He was not restored by the river, but by obedience. And in that quiet, trembling moment, Naaman understood what the servant girl had known all along, that God moves through the humble, speaks through the unlikely, and heals through the obedient. He returned to Elisha, not as a commander demanding honor, but as a man transformed. Now I know, he said, that there is no God in all the earth except in Israel. The disease was gone, and so was something deeper, the belief that power could save him. In the end, the miracle was not found in the river, or in the prophet, or in the authority Naaman carried. It child, unnamed, unseen, overlooked by the world, yet fully seen by God. A girl with no status, no influence, no reason for anyone to listen. And yet heaven trusted her with a truth powerful enough to rewrite a commander's destiny. It is a quiet reminder to all of us, God does not measure impact by age, position, or reputation. He measures it by obedience and by the courage to speak when no one expects your voice to matter. So let your light shine before others, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. Matthew chapter 5, verse 16. Let your light shine, no matter your age, your status, or your circumstances. Agents of Wisdom, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. God bless you.